compassionate people? Welcome to Vegan News. Let's dive right in. So, the Trump administration, who else would be, is cutting USDA employees by 40%. More specifically, the ones that inspect pork or pig flesh production. The industry is going to be allowed to police itself. And we all know how well that always works out with everything else. Just look at the police in this country. It works out great when they investigate themselves and find nothing they did was ever wrong. What could go wrong with it? Messing with the food supply. Under the new proposed limits, there will be no speed limit to how fast a production line can go. It can go as fast as they like. And the inspectors will be employees of the company instead of USDA workers, which, as all of us know, there was already a lot of collusion there and lobbyists, but this will be the final nail in the coffin for allowing this industry, and very likely many others will follow suit, to become self-policing. And there's actually other instances of this happening that the Trump administration is bringing about, which I will get into with some other stories that are actually really disturbing. And I want to get this right, so I want to read this directly from the LA Times article, okay? Under the proposed new inspection system, the responsibility for identifying disease and contaminated pork would be shared with plant employees, whose training would be at the discretion of plant owners. There would be no limits on slaughter line speeds as well. You can find the sources for this linked down below in the description or comments depending on where it's posted. This comes on the heels of back in September, the Trump administration allowed poultry companies to increase their line speeds with no government oversight whatsoever. And now look, I don't want to make this a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is a bipartisan issue. Even during the Obama administration, things were being accelerated. They were being allowed to police themselves more and given less and less government oversight and regulation, as seems to be the trend in the last decades. We need to be going the opposite direction of keeping a better eye on these companies. As I'm sure we're all aware, there's constantly stuff cropping up in the news of different contaminations, even in vegetables, and those are coming from the animal ag industry being both deceptive and highly profit-driven in the way they decide to handle food, and grow individuals and murder them. Now, these changes may be implemented as soon as May, and officials from the Trump administration and the beef industry are actually going to come into talks within the next month or so.
Welcome, fellow Republicans. To start with the old business, Brother Hibbert will read a report on our efforts to rename everything after Ronald Reagan.
All Millard Fillmore schools are now Ronald Reagan's. The Mississippi River is now the Mississippi Reagan.
And my good friend Frankenstein is now Franken Reagan. Blah!
Excellent.
To decide how or when, it sounds like it's a done deal, they will take over the quality control, disease testing, and all those other things, just like we're seeing the pork industry shift to now. So it's going to be like that in the beef industry as well. And as we all know, there have been multiple problems within that too. And if there isn't enough insult in the idea that we're going to allow giant corporations, and really not just corporations, mega conglomerate corporations. We're talking about Smithfield, who's owned by multiple holding companies overseas in China, being allowed to mess with not just our food supply, but the way we treat others, both workers and animals. Now, if that isn't enough of a concern, enough of a scare for people, if that's not enough of an insult, keep in mind these same oversights, these same deregulations and regulations being placed on the corporations. Boeing, the Boeing 737, the two that recently crashed, they were both part of the program that was part of the deregulation under both the George Bush's Jr.'s administration and now the Trump administration. Were both certified under his administration, and guess who certified them? It wasn't our government, it was Boeing themselves, by the Trump administration, and as was started by a previous administration. Now, most of us who have seen any kind of news on Facebook, glanced out on the TV, saw a newspaper walking by, whatever, we know that both of those airplanes recently crashed, and they have no idea why. Now, they're doing investigations and all these other things, but do you think maybe the fact that a corporation was able to, cut corners here and there and save themselves a little money, which is what they do, and that's what we know they do, and cost people their lives? Do you think maybe that might have had something to do with it? Some issues that come up are vegan. Some issues that come up are animal rights. And some issues that come up are both of those and include the general pre-vegan, non-vegan, carnist, whatever you want to call them, public at large. And this is an issue that every single one of us, no matter where we are at, in this situation, this thought process, whatever we think about anything else, everybody should be agreeing that corporations having control over testing of disease and the food supply and the way workers and animals are treated is beyond ridiculous. We're returning to a time where, and hold on one second, I'm going to use a very kind of esoteric reference. Upton Sinclair's The Jungle took place at a time where companies had full reign to do whatever they wanted. And this is what is being pushed forward yet again. We're talking about, and if you've never read The Jungle, Upton Sinclair was a journalist at the turn of the century. Back then, lots of people died from eating different flesh products and from working in the slaughterhouses and processing facilities. Many times, men would fall into giant open meat grinders. They would be pulled out, still alive, dead, doesn't matter, and that meat would be mixed in with everything else, and those men would be disposed of as if they were nothing. This was in the days when they were allowed to regulate themselves. This is a time we can't return back to. Now, of course, corporations want to use lobbyists to return back to a time like that so that they can make the most amount of money that they possibly can. And I guess you can't blame a corporation for doing what it's legally obligated to do, but you can blame us for not speaking up. You can blame the people you vote for, or even if you didn't vote for them, you can still blame those people and vote new people in. You have the power to make a change. So down below in the description, I'm going to put the contact information of who you need to speak with, either by email or phone. Pick your poison, pick your contact method. And from there, you can express your concern about what's happening. And try to make it about all three things. Try to touch on the animals, try to touch on the food supply, even though you're not eating it, I'm not eating it. And also, touch on workers' rights and what's happening to a lot of times undocumented immigrants. But even the ones who are American citizens are still being treated like complete garbage. So that's the episode for today, guys. Lots of awesome things coming up. All right, love you guys so much. Check the description, check the link, check the comments. Whatever platform this is on, check. There will be a way to contact some officials. Love you guys. Later. Bye.